Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Rose.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
This is our reaction interview for Dexter Original Sin, Episode 1. This is the premiere, guys. We're here. We're all together. We're going back to the early 90s. We're going to enjoy what is probably going to be some ridiculousness over the course of this season.
Listen, there was some stuff that I did really like about this show. I mean, I love Christian Slater. It was great to see Sarah Michelle Gellar. There were some things that worked, but for the most part, was there anything we learned in this that we didn't already know from Dexter lore? I mean, maybe little tiny bits, but for the most part, this show didn't deliver anything new to me that I didn't already know.
And here I am with a simple message. That's okay. You know what? This show to me, through one episode, so I'm making a very brash opinion
Wow,
without even
alright.
seeing the rest of it. It is the TV equivalent so far of going to Chili's. I love Chili's. I will go to Chili's anytime. Give me the ribs. Give me those big old burgers. It's not the most high-class establishment in the world here. You're not going to see Chef Carmi Berzatto. You're not going to get a mind-blowing culinary experience. But you know why there are so many Chili's? Because money. Everybody wants money. You know why Dexter Original Sin exists?
Money.
Exactly, because Showtime got a directive from Paramount that they just want to do a lot of big franchises now because they are rolling around in Taylor Sheridan's money from the Yellowstone universe. So that is why miraculously Dexter Morgan is back from the dead, and why we have this show, and why we're also going to get Resurrection. And this is not fine art, but that's okay, because it is a Chili's burger where you just sink your teeth into it, you enjoy it. Maybe you eat too much, maybe you feel a little bit sick afterwards, but you know what? It's a good time while you're there.
Yeah, listen, I'm not mad about it. There's things that don't work. There's things that are nostalgic. Like, I feel like for me, it's just all about the nostalgia of it all, being back in the Dexter universe. I mean, come on. Dexter is one of the greatest shows of all time. Yes, it had two bad endings, but
Yes.
it's about the journey for me with a lot of shows. It's very hard to land the plane on a show, and if you're going to base a whole show on one bad ending, then you're gonna hate Game of Thrones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, Game of Thrones was still a great show, and Dexter was still a fantastic show.
Yeah.
So yeah, are we rewriting Dexter here and making it something so brand new and fresh? No, but I'm in my feels about it. I really like it.
This is the thing. I'm just such a sicko for this universe, and Paramount knows that there are a bunch of us sickos out
I
here
know.
that they could do, I don't know, a Miguel Prado spinoff, and at the very least, we would all kind of be like, oh, maybe I'm going to check
I
this
know.
out. It's just they know how to get to us.
Absolutely.
But before we go further here, this video is partnered with Apple TV Plus. If you guys are not aware, Jess and I, we love Apple TV Plus. We cover a lot of shows over there, and Silo's going on right now.
Yep.
And in January, Severance Season 2 is going to premiere. Now, if you guys want to support us further, we have an exclusive Matt and Jess TV link in the description of this video. All you got to do is click on that link, take you to the Apple TV Plus page, sign up, and that is a great way through that Matt and Jess TV link to support us further, to continue to allow us to make these videos that we love to do so much for you. And thank you guys for your support,
you.
and thank you to Apple TV Plus.
Thank you. Okay, let's talk about the casting of this. There are some people that I really like the casting for. I really like the casting for Deb, and I think that the writing for her was very spot on for how old Deb would be at that time. Masuka, I mean, that laugh, I don't know how long he took to practice that laugh, but perfect. Sarah Michelle Gellar was really great. Christian Slater, I love Christian Slater, but at the same time, I was kind of like, couldn't they have just brought back James? Like, the original Harry actor is about 70. I think he's like 69 or 70. And Christian Slater's like 55 or 56. So yeah, there's a little bit of an age difference there, but at the same time, if they can make Billy Crystal look like he's 20 over on Before on Apple TV, then they could have brought back the actual actor that played Harry. Now, I know that Christian Slater, I love him. I grew up at the time that he was coming up with Heathers and Pump Up the Volume. I love him, and I loved seeing him on the show. But for me as a Dexter fan, I think that the original Harry would have been a much bigger draw for me as a Dexter fan.
I understand that, and I think it could have been really interesting, and James is a very good actor. He could have easily slipped back into this. I'll admit I had some reservations going into this when it comes to casting, and I'll also say that I had a couple of like seriously uncanny valley moments just like looking at some of these people, like looking at the new Batista, who is barely even in this episode. I was like, you look almost a little too just like Batista for me. It's
good.
It's making me uncomfortable. Like, you know, I love the actor who's playing Masuka because he was on the Blacklist, and we really love the Blacklist.
He's so good.
Like, see, now for an embarrassing moment. I spent about 5 minutes last night, right after watching it, trying to impersonate the Masuka laugh, because if there's anyone you should all aspire to be, it is the character on Dexter who ages the worst in 2024, who is a walking violation of a lot of different rules. But I will admit, with Deb in particular, I had a lot of hesitation going into this, mostly, and this is not Molly Brown's fault at all. She's just so much shorter than Jennifer Carpenter that, like, to me, I was really worried that I was going to get just very distracted with the whole, oh, this character doesn't look enough like this other character. And here I am saying this while also doing the opposite when it comes to Batista. But once I heard her and once I kind of saw her in scenes, all my problems just washed away.
The inflections in her voice were exactly Deb. This actress studied this character. Like, it feels like she really dove into this character. And now we're going to talk about Patrick Gibson, who plays Dexter on the show. Now, there's some things that I was kind of like, are they doing this on purpose as a bit of a nod back to when, like, Dexter played a younger version of himself and they put him in a bad wig? And I'm hoping that that's what they were doing here, where they had him playing a 20-year-old. He's almost 30 and he looks like he's almost 30. So when I saw him as the 20-year-old, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like let this one go. This one feels like they're just doing a nod back. They have to be. That's where I'm in. I'm in that box. But for the rest of it, I think just this actor has an impossible time trying to be Michael C. Hall. Anyone who was going to be in this role was going to be in the same spot. This isn't Patrick's fault at this point. It's just everyone. Michael C. Hall is Dexter. Anybody else is not Dexter. And it felt like him in particular, but a lot of the cast as well, were trying really hard to be the actual characters. And in a way that it felt like they were just like over jumping the hurdle here a little bit. And with him especially, that smirk that he had over and over and over again, I was just like, okay, Dexter does have that smirk, but he doesn't overuse it the way that it was being overused here. It just really, he was having a hard time. I was having a hard time with him.
I think it's a little bit of it's probably also the direction of this episode.
Agreed.
Where they were just sort of like, okay, we have to throw in as many little Dexter-isms in here as possible.
Like the mosquito and the smirk. Like, I'm not here totally just like, oh, this is all Patrick's fault. I don't think it is. I think anybody that was going to be in this role was going to have this exact same problem.
It's a really difficult task. It is exactly like you said. And it is funny you bring up the wig here because we've already made a Blacklist reference here. We want to go to the school of Elizabeth Keene wigs here. Where we just have this really weird, ridiculous, distracting wig for a big part of this now.
And that's fine because when Dexter was young Dexter on the original show, he had a distracting wig and it just was ridiculous.
Why do we always have to put these people in terrible wigs? Why can't there be another way to just show that he's younger than let's just put some bad hair on you and call it a day? Okay, my favorite slash least favorite performance of this entire premiere
Mhm.
is ironically somebody who was not even in the original Dexter, and this is Patrick Dempsey as Aaron Spencer.
That mustache.
Okay,
Oh.
everything about this character, it is like somebody told Dempsey that he's playing a bad guy on Miami Vice who is involved in a lot of criminal enterprises and is perhaps getting a little too high on their own supply. And he's just like going into these rooms like he has just bulldozed through a mountain of a powdery substance. And he is just yelling and swearing at everyone. And why are you playing this at a 13 when everyone else is at a 10?
Patrick's also at a 13.
Okay, all right, but it's just like, what are you doing, Dempsey? You are not even on the same show as everybody else.
Okay, before we get too much into the plot and what's working and what's not working, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We are going to be here every single week with Dexter Original Sin. We are also going to be covering Dexter Resurrection when that comes back as well. And it's a great way to help support the channel. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Okay, so let's talk about seeing Michael C. Hall and the end of New Blood. I like that if you haven't seen Dexter and if you haven't seen New Blood, they gave you enough information to be able to jump into this. They had him in, the back of this car being driven to the hospital. You saw the flashes in the window of what happened to him, that he had been shot. He is being rushed to the hospital. And he's like, and then your life flashes before your eyes. And then I audibly laughed because they went straight to him being born. I would like to ask everybody out there,
This was coming.
Hands up. How many people remember being born? 0, 0. Not Dexter either. It was so ridiculous.
This show has a little bit in common with Hijack on Apple TV Plus, a show that I know.
Oh, that show's so fun.
It is so fun. I will never say it's actually like a legitimately good show, but I just have a lot of irrational enjoyment out of it. Like we're watching Dexter being born. It is unbelievably stupid, and yet at the same time it is just so unintentionally funny that I'm just rolling with it. Now, here's what I have to say though to Showtime. I know why you put this in the trailer, that Michael C. Hall was going to be back on screen. I get it. You wanted to get people to watch, but this was the biggest potential surprise of your entire premiere.
Yep.
And you ruined it in advance.
I think they had to anyways. If you're going to announce that you're going to do Dexter Resurrection, either you have to hold on to it and announce it after this, like announce it today after this has already aired, or you have to reveal it, because how do you have Dexter Resurrection and be like, oh, and Dexter's back? Well, obviously he made it out.
Yeah, and I mean, there are a number of questions I have related to all of this, and I mean, we'll get a lot more into that, I'm sure, when Dexter Resurrection comes, but I'll throw a couple of them out there for now, including number one, who found Dexter? What specific place is he getting treatment on? Is he going to be able to keep all of his secrets under wraps there? It's just like everything was kind of getting just blown all over the place at the end of New Blood, so I know there will be a time for all of this, but there was about 20 minutes in this episode where I was so distracted sort of thinking about all this stuff because, I'm most invested in present day Dexter. I wasn't really probably paying as close attention to the start of Original Sin as I should have been because of what they did.
Absolutely. I mean, for those of us who watch New Blood, we wanted to know what was going to be going on here, that he was actually going to be in Original Sin. And I mean, we had the narration with him, but we actually got to see him at the hospital with his, and my life was flashing before my eyes. And I was like, okay, well, this all makes sense and that's all fine. And we're going back to the past here where he's 20 years old. He hasn't killed anybody yet. His dad has taught him the code and was like, okay, if we ever have to get to the point that you have to kill a person, then this is how you're going to do it. But we're going to try to deal with it another way. It's kind of like what we do in the shadows for those of you who watch a show when, spoiler alert, Guillermo becomes a vampire and he's having a very difficult time with the idea of killing somebody, and he's trying to eat raw meat and do these other things, anything except the thing that his body wants him to do. And it's the same here with Dexter. It's all he wants to do is, kill an actual person, but he's, oh, let's go out and kill a deer. What do you want for dinner tonight, son? Boar or deer? And he's just like, Dad, this isn't working anymore.
No, I think they did what I feel like is a Dexter by the numbers in a lot of this episode, where
Yes.
it's sort of like, okay, we know that this is how Dexter tried to suppress some of his urges at a
Yes.
specific point in his life. They gave us a full scene of him trying to protect Deb to sort of show, okay, he does care about Deb. He just expresses it in his own way and not necessarily in the way in which she wants.
Yeah, and it is the scene where he finally realized that just going hunting isn't going to do it for him anymore. It's over.
Yeah, and they really hit a lot of the notes that I think so many of us were expecting, at times in ridiculous fashion, but at times it's like, okay, I understand you guys have to do this. And it's sort of an entry point into the first kill that we see on Dexter Original Sin, and that is Nurse Mary, because for those who actually don't know, the original Dexter is based on, literary material. It did not just come out of thin air, but it's established in some sort of greater canon here that Dexter's first kill or first known kill is a nurse by the name of Mary. So this is the show sort of honoring everything that has come before, but because that had already been established, there wasn't really a lot of room for unpredictability here at all.
No, but it was, for me, good to see that Dexter's first potential kill with what happened with Deb and his actual first kill with what was happening to his dad was all connected to his family. And that even though he has straight difficulty making connection with anyone, he's just not really able to do it. There is a part of him that is trying to figure that out. That's like, okay, I understand that I'm not really feeling family the way I'm supposed to, but I understand that these people are important to me and that I'm important to them. And that if I'm going to be going by the code, then I need to protect the people who are going to protect me. And that would be Deb and that would be his dad.
I think what I'm really curious about now is the aftermath of this particular kill, because there was a certain note here by our narrator that there was a mistake perhaps made when it comes to the trophy that he took from this. So is the rest of this season going to be the fallout of this, or are we going to go in kind of traditional Dexter ways where we have a quote unquote big bad that's around for a lot of it?
Yeah, I mean, if he took the earrings, which he did, and that's going to come back to haunt him later on, then I want to know then how he ends up taking blood slide trophies later. Like, you didn't learn your lesson. You tried to figure out a better way to do it. I would have thought that if he took these earrings and it turned out to come back and bite him in some sort of way, or he just kind of slid by without anything happening to him, because we are in a situation where Dexter is a grown up and still doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And he did start taking blood slides. Like, did he just figure out a better way to deal with it? Because those blood slides came back to bite him as well.
Yeah, no, they did. And I have to wonder this. Are the Gators going to come back to, because he's clearly goes into his slice of life, dumping everybody in the trash bags. I'm sitting here being like, not that I would ever condone any of this, but I'm just like, that actually seems like a pretty good idea if you're just wanting to get rid of a body. You just feed it to the alligators.
Well, you have to sit there and make sure that they actually take care of business, because if they don't, then it's like, okay, there's still pieces of people.
Well, they got to be hungry, right? I don't know enough about alligators, as I'm clearly making that obvious here.
I will say that it was really cool to see that Dexter wanted permission from his dad to be able to make that first kill. And, his father had a heart attack, was in the hospital. This nurse was like putting medication into him that was killing him. And he figured it out and he told his dad about it. And his dad gave him that permission to be able to move forward. But after it was done and he was, of course, happy to be alive, Deb's wheeling him around, gets him home, and they have that very short conversation about it. When he leaves the room, it was good to see that Harry had a very human reaction to it, where he's crying, that he's just like, oh my goodness, like, now we're here. We've gone over the bar. My son is going to kill people now. Like, there's no putting this genie back in the bottle. It is over. What have I done?
Yeah, and that's heartbreaking. It's this real moment of lost innocence. And I mean, I don't think it's lost on Harry that he's alive because of what Dexter did.
Right.
Then if Dexter didn't step in, he would have been dead eventually. But it
Yeah.
doesn't make it easy. It's still something that he's having to digest. And you're adding on top of that Dexter's own awareness that, him, his stress, everything associated with him is probably one of the reasons why Harry was in this position in the first place.
Okay, let's talk about Harry in the past. We
Yeah.
had this very strange scene that felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. Like we're watching him watching a football game, having a drink. He's not paying attention to anything. He's calling out for Junior to show up. I was just like, what timeline am I
Yep.
in now? Like he's got a son that's seemingly, drowning in the pool. He jumps in, he's unable to save him. And I was just like, who is this person? How did we end up all the way back here? And I think that that's going to be part of the mystery and background of this season as well. Sort of be like, okay, Harry had another kid, and what happened? Like, he lost his kid. What did that mean for his marriage? What did that mean for his family?
I'll admit that it wasn't until I heard the name Doris that I was 100% confident that that was even Harry, because I didn't know what was going on. But then I
No.
tried to crawl back into the recesses of my brain a little bit here. And I do remember something that somebody associated with the show. Apologies, I don't remember who said. And that was just that we are going to learn some things on Original Sin that Dexter was not perhaps privy to. And this may just be another example of that, though at the same time, this is where we get real. This is yet again this Dexter remember being born dilemma.
Oh my God.
If Dexter was not privy to this, how are we understanding and seeing this particular scene? Is it that Dexter did know about it, but he just never felt the need to talk about it for some reason?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I'm hoping that we're actually going to get more flashbacks and scenes to when Harry actually found Dexter in that crate covered in blood, that we would get some more of the after effects of that, him at that age, Harry trying to deal with that, also having a loss of a son, of maybe that's why he's even more protective of Dexter, because he lost a child already.
Yeah, and that would make sense. I think that the thing we have to remember here is that there's a reason why they specifically included this in the first episode, and it
Right.
was tonally, stylistically, even like the colors we were seeing on screen, it was shot very differently than everything else. So maybe that is a clue that we're kind of going into some sort of, I don't know, supernatural plane here.
I was surprised that they moved Dexter into that intern spot in the first episode. Like, it feels like we're basically just back at Miami Metro.
Yep.
Everybody's there. We're going to be working on cases again. I was just like, okay, so this is just Dexter
Yeah.
all over again. He's already back there.
Yeah, they could have found many other ways to do this story. They could have done like Dexter the high school years. They could have done
Yes.
Dexter the college years, like things that
Yes.
were very, very different. But clearly, and this is once again, Mr. Paramount was just sort of being like, I need this show to be familiar.
It can still be familiar. I mean, Harry's still working there. Everybody can be part of it. I would have enjoyed seeing Dexter more in the college years. He's,
Yeah.
practicing medicine. He's trying to go forward with that career as a way to, deal with the dark passenger. That's fine. That would have been really interesting to see him maybe going through college and doing, his murders that way. And then having Harry on the detective side of things, trying to cover things up while he's got Patrick Dempsey over here trying to uncover what Dexter is doing.
Okay, I'm going to put on a slightly irrational tinfoil hat here
Okay.
and talk a little bit about where things are going,
All right.
because a lot of this does feel the same, but there are
Yes.
two people who were not accounted for from the original show, at
Right.
least in terms of big roles. We have Dempsey, and I'm willing to assume that because, Dempsey's character, Aaron Spencer, is an older gentleman at this point. He might just be retired by the time we get to the original Dexter. He might not matter, or he might have, insert a joke here about what I mentioned earlier that would probably get us demonetized if I say it.
Right.
But Sarah Michelle Gellar, I'm curious about this one because She's obviously a big name. She's not taking this role for no reason. She's Dexter's effective mentor because she's working in forensics. Could she be the big bad here who's actually doing the job wrong or has something nefarious going on? And this is why it's irrational. I just want to see hashtag evil Buffy on this show. Like, if I'm being honest, just let Sarah Michelle Gellar cook a little bit.
I'm wondering if she's going to be the new Dokes that's going to start kind of figuring out what's going on. Maybe not all the way, but, you know, far enough in that Dexter's going to be like, okay, now I have to deal with this.
That's a good call, because I do think he's already mentioned things are going to come back to bite him in some ways. Harry's not going to obviously turn over his son at any point.
No, and Patrick Dempsey's a little too high up here to be dealing with the intern. So who's going to kind of circle it? It's not going to be Masuka. We know that Masuka is still buddies with him by the time we get to him and he's an adult. Yeah. So that just really leaves her.
Yeah, so I it's something to watch out for. I do think one way or another she's going to be important to whatever happens on the show moving forward. Yeah, Dexter Original Sin. It's not Shakespeare, guys. This is a regurgitation of a lot of things you already know, but it is Dexter. It is fun. It is silly. And you know what? Because we already know what happens to Dexter later, I'm going to say this, famous last words. There is no way this show can end as badly as either the original or as Dexter New Blood.
Oh, see yourself out. It absolutely can end as badly.
What else can they do at this point?
They have had 2 Dexter shows and they have both landed the plane in a lake in fire.
Yes.
Like they can absolutely kill the ending again. And that's fine, because at this point, it just feels like it's part of the show that you're going to have a really fun time along the way. And then the plane is just going to be underwater. We basically moved to our own Lost Island here at this point, where we no longer view this show from the existence of reality or from like the scope of what is actually great television. We're never going to consider the Dexter franchise again to be on the par of like a Succession, which it probably never was, but the OG show, it was getting some attention and, critical acclaim and nominations. Right. That's not going to be this show, and that's okay. No, that's not going to be this show. Yes, it is okay. I mean, this is a great show for just diving into a world that you feel nostalgic about and just have a good time and then go on about your day.
Yeah, hopefully they'll give us at least some meaty stuff lore-wise to discuss, as, Jess and I are huge Dexter people. For those who don't know, Jess had a Dexter birthday party.
Yes, I did. It was so good.
We had specialty cocktails, the Bay Harbor Butcher.
That's right.
And surprise, and that was the other one.
Yeah, where Matt would just go up to you and throw a candy in your drink and yell surprise.
Listen, I do want young Dokes on here at some point. Dokes?
Oh, I would die. That would be great.
Okay, that's hopefully all coming down the pipeline. Everybody watch this show so we can get 1 million seasons of it, and it's always going to be ridiculous, but I will be here.
Yes, absolutely. I will be here. Man, please bring that into existence, young Dokes.
All right, well, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you guys don't miss anything else from the greater Dexter universe. Also, we're covering Silo right now. Severance coming up. So much good stuff at the channel. And if you guys do want to support us further, join our Patreon. We have exclusive Dune Prophecy videos there. That link is in the description. Thank you so much. We'll see you here next time.